Hello everyone and welcome to Red Hot Go, the show where I watch an anime recommended by you and give my first impressions of it. This time by request of my wonderful patrons Jaman5 and Pixcalibur, as well as Grim, Fisheyes and Alex Funniact, I will be giving K-On! A Red Hot Go. Obviously, the very first thing that I as a viewer was treated to was watching Yui flail around her home, trying to get ready for school. Usually, writing wisdom warns against starting a story with a character waking up, but there's just so much character packed into this sequence that I cannot help but love it anyway. The other core cast are also interesting. At first, they seemingly fall into familiar archetypes: energetic, shy, posh, etc. But even as early as the first 3 episodes, we begin to see hints that there may be more to them. I would argue that one of the show's main draws is the implicit promise that we will learn more about this cast of characters, as Yui does. Something that surprised me is how little the early narrative has to do with music. I understand that this is an odd thing to say about a show like K-On!, but it seems as though the club they all joined could have been for anything, and the narrative could have worked with minimal changes. Now, this isn't a complaint. Actually, I'm quite fond of the idea that this is a show about a group of strangers becoming friends. In fact, none of the core cast's motivations even align with music. Ritsu starts a band because she is excited by the thought of being a rock star. Mio joins the band because Ritsu asks her to. Tsumugi joins because she thinks the rest of the cast is interesting, and Yui joins because she doesn't want the rest of her school life to go by without having done anything. Besides the odd reference, the show seemingly has little interest in exploring music as a concept for the time being, but once again, that isn't necessarily a complaint. Not only is the show more interested in showing a blossoming friendship, but it seemingly wants to tackle friendship as a core theme. Not only do we mostly see these characters eating snacks together, but in episode 2 and 3, we see them go out of their way to help one another, although this is not always executed perfectly. The best and worst examples of this come in episode 2 when Yui wants to buy a guitar. When she has her heart set on one that is outside of her price range, all the band members get jobs to help her save up. This goes to show the camaraderie between people striving for a singular goal. And then later, when they all give their pay to Yui, she turns it down, electing instead to buy something in her budget until she can afford something nicer. This creates an interesting dilemma. Does Yui inconvenience her new friends to get the guitar she wants, or does she accept that her first guitar will not be the one she really wanted? At least it was interesting until Tsumugi used her social clout to get Yui the guitar she wanted for a price within her budget. Now, I understand what they were going for here. We know as early as the fast food scene that Tsumugi is fascinated by commoner culture, and she stumbled into this result by trying to haggle, something that she had only just learnt about earlier in the episode. My problem is that it was an easy solution to an otherwise compelling problem. I got a somewhat similar vibe from the end of episode 3, when Yui gets a great test score after only one night of studying. I hope that the narrative does not continue to find cop-out solutions to the problems faced by the core cast, but even if it does, there will still be plenty left to enjoy. So from ice cold to red hot, I give K-On! A rating of sizzling. It doesn't give me the level of excitement needed for a red hot rating, but if it lives up to all the potential in the first episodes, I imagine that that will be changing by the end of year roundup. And that is it for this episode of Red Hot Go. I'd like to thank my patrons: Orion Tran, Quincy Chamberlain, Jaman5, Lars Espen, Shark, Data52, NerxU, Pixcalibur, Alberto Cruz, and Tyler Bennett. If you too would like to support this channel further, consider becoming a patron yourself. Thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you next time.